Hey, there we go. Can you hear me? No, not yet. No? How are we? There we go. Oh my goodness. Now it's back. Wow. Oh, chat room. How's it going out there? My name is Jeff Fritz. You can hear me ish. Yeah, the microphones are way over here. They're turned up. It's a little bit tricky, but it's balanced for this room. How's it going out there, chat room? Yeah, it's echoey. It's the room. My goodness. It has been a whirlwind 36 hours. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whatever time it might be where you are out there. Welcome back to the live stream. My name is Jeff Fritz, and today is February 25th, 2020, and we're going to write a little bit of code today. That is, I'm at Channel 9. This isn't my green screen. I'm here. I'm live. Daryl Code Stuff. Hello, hello. Cap'n Strunk Pal. Hello. Johan B. DJ Vortex. Julex. Hello, hello. We're going to do some research within Carta. Where is it? Carta's here somewhere. There's Exchange Server, Flight Simulator. Satya's book is there. Bill Gates' book, R2-D2. There's even there was a HoloLens. There's a HoloLens back here behind me. So, all kinds of stuff. Do I have a CD drive? No, I don't. So here's the thing. I shot my mouth off a little bit over the weekend on, R2-D2's over here. Is just off camera. I shot my mouth off a little bit over the weekend about .NET. And I think it was kind of a good thing. So, I work for Microsoft. But a lot of feedback that I've been seeing, that I've been hearing, that I saw from folks is, and continues to be this thing on Twitter where folks are saying .NET is for Windows only. If you're working with .NET, you're building Windows applications. You're a developer who isn't real because you don't use a Mac. You don't use Linux. You don't use the command line. Because you use Visual Studio, you're cheating. You're not, right? There's this downplay that you don't have access to the cool toys, to the cool things, which it's a load of bunk. It's folks that say that don't know what they're missing. They don't understand just how productive, just how easy it is to be a .NET developer, just how easy it is to be a developer that can be this productive, generate so much code so quickly, integrate with, and do such cool things with your technology. It's tremendous. Let me see if we can get some music playing here in the background. I, of course, like to play music to code by our friend, Mr. Carl Franklin. This is music that's scientifically designed. It's engineered to get you in the flow, get you in the groove, so that whatever task it is you're working on, you can focus and just get stuff done. Today, let me see if I can play Purple. See if we can get that coming through. I think I hear it. It's interesting because I'm trying to pipe this stuff from my stream machine over here over to the next machine, and I don't have it coming through the appropriate channel over here. Give me 1 second. See, this is where I had the thing earlier. There we go. There we go. And let me turn that down just a smidge. Yeah, I'm turning it down, Marcus. There we go. Hey there, ancient coder. Hello, hello. So, I don't think that's echoey, right? We should be okay with that. No, you're getting it twice. I can either go musicless. I might be able to go musicless today. If I do, all my sound effects are going to go also. That's okay. So that's fine. We'll make up for it next time. Yeah, I'm having a problem with the how I've got things wired here, and I don't know the soundboard in the studio. Um, you're right, Hugo. So Hugo with a comment down there about the confusion about .NET Framework, .NET Core, .NET Standard, Xamarin, all these different things that are going on. Yes, I've got a ton of power cables here, and you know what? It's all my stuff. I don't care what it looks like because we're moving on. We're going to be um, getting into things that are a little bit more interesting. Shoot. Let me switch to my code so we can see that from featured chat because of the way I have things layered here. It's a little bit tricky. I'm not gonna lie. It's a little bit tricky here today. So let me see. I can switch this over here to this view, and I've got to switch the other machine. Say I've got two machines that I'm driving OBS with. Hello, I'm down here now. There's the statement from Hugo. Probably some of the confusion from all the different things that are .NET this, .NET that, and you're not wrong. There is a lot of different things that make up the various .NETs. And it's weird. It's weird right now. This is an intermediate thing where we have .NET Framework, .NET Core, .NET Standard, and Xamarin. We effectively have 4 .NETs, which is actually a lot better than where we were, because not only did we have .NET Framework, but they didn't tell you, and Xamarin, and Xamarin was kind of right on the outside. I'm not even going to talk about .NET 5 yet. Let's not even go there yet. But the other .NET Framework, also UWP, also Windows Phone, also Silverlight. They didn't tell you, but these things weren't the same as .NET Framework. So while there was one .NET, these other frameworks, these other runtimes, these other things, they didn't talk about as .NET, but they had similar syntax, but you didn't have access to all the things that you could do with it. So we as a technology community were handicapped, and if you went in and started trying to use, let's choose Silverlight, because they forked the framework and said, well, these are the only things that work on Silverlight, you ended up in a really bad place as a developer because you couldn't actually use .NET. Anything that you built to use .NET wouldn't necessarily work on Silverlight. You had to recompile it specially with a subset of things for Silverlight. And that's what kind of drove us to .NET Standard, right? So .NET Standard is that way that, and we're going to get over to GitHub and we'll talk about all the things that are going on over there. Let me hide some of these things, yes. So .NET Standard, let's go over to .NET. .NET, and I believe it's under Standard. .NET Standard is a way for us to take all those different .NETs that nobody really talked about, nobody really dealt with. Where is it? There's a docs bit here that looks really nice that I always enjoy showing. Here it is. So, and this is on my Linux machine. We'll talk about that in a minute. So, .NET Standard gave us a way to take Mono and Xamarin and Unity and the Universal Windows Platform. We've already ripped off the bottom here because it's not supported anymore. Things like Silverlight, right? Things like Windows Phone that were supported as part of .NET Standard helped drive this so that we could pull together all these different .NETs so that we had one concise way to address them, one way to target them as you're building your applications. So we effectively, as a .NET community, shot ourselves in the foot. We forked the framework, which in many open source technologies and communities is a great thing to have things fork and whatever, but you try and bring them back together so you have some universal way that people can contribute and whatnot. And you end up with this mess of different things where folks went and tried to build their own things, but they built things that didn't necessarily support everything. So right? But looking at the bottom down there, and I'm seeing some scan lines coming off of my Linux machine. I don't know why, but we had, that's gonna annoy the snot out of me. We'll make do with this. So we were able to bring these together and say, look, you need to implement different features in order to be considered .NET standard. And in return, we'll help you get things running on your runtime, on your framework that runs on, in the case of Mono, runs with games, right? In the case of Xamarin iOS, Mac, and Android, we'll run on those different operating systems. So that's where .NET standard came in. And it absolutely is confusing. It is. Johan points out, standards like the interface in .NET Core is the implementation. That is the rough explanation of how all of this kind of works and fits together. You're not wrong. So that's where .NET 5 comes in. .NET Standard is a great way for us to pull these things together and get them being able to talk to each other so you can reuse and move forward with technologies that can connect, can collaborate. That's pretty good. .NET 5, the promise of .NET 5, and we're going to hear more about .NET 5 at Build. We'll hear more about it at Ignite in the fall. Certainly those of you who are coming to MVP Summit, you'll hear more about it here when that happens. But .NET 5, the promise of it is, it's the Highlander promise. There shall be only one .NET. .NET Core, .NET Framework, Mono, Xamarin. These things will all be one framework, is the promise. Okay, that's a pretty bold promise. That's a pretty bold strategy, Cotton. Let's see if it works out for them, and we'll see. There's a lot to that to make that work. But in the meantime, what still holds true is we do have all these .NETs, and all these .NETs work on Windows, Mac, Linux. They work on your phone. They work on your watch. They work on your toaster. They work on your refrigerator. .NET Core runs on Tizen. Tizen is that Samsung operating system that runs on Samsung watches, Samsung appliances. You can run .NET on your refrigerator. No, we don't. Skynet's a networking thing. We don't want to name it Skynet. Hugo!
I'll just resubscribe for 15 months. Woohoo, still in the propeller beanie.
We need to talk.
Spin it like it's hot.
We will. Thank you so much. In the propeller beanie. Appreciate that very much, Hugo. So, we as a .NET community have learned a lot as we've gone through this journey, and .NET 5 is the answer. So, that's where we're going. In the meantime, like I said, build on Windows, Mac, and Linux. I'm on a Linux machine here today, and we're going to be doing some development, working on our project using Linux. I purposely didn't bring any of my Windows machines with me here to Redmond this week, to Seattle, because do you hear echo? There shouldn't be too much echo. It's just the room would be all that you're hearing here. In which case I'm going to be kicking myself that I didn't bring my headsets and just switch over to my audio, because I really was leaning towards using my own. This subscriber thing echoed. Yeah, because it's coming off of the machine over here. And I don't know how to pull it out of the sound here. So, I didn't bring any of my Windows machines. Let me get back into this. I didn't bring any of my Windows machines because I was doing an event about Visual Studio for Mac, so I brought my Mac. But everybody can use a Mac. We saw yesterday all day about Visual Studio for Mac. You can use Mac to build all kinds of great stuff with Visual Studio for Mac. Of course, there's Visual Studio Code out there, but if you want a full IDE, which folks, yes, think you're cheating if you're using an IDE. These are probably the same folks who think you're not a real programmer unless you've used punch cards. Use an IDE. It's going to make you more productive. You're going to be able to write more code. You're going to be able to find the problems in your code earlier in the process. Folks who tell you that they like how they don't have to be intimidated by a compiler or an editor that gives them errors before they actually look at it in their browser are lying to you. They want to know before they look in their browser that their code is right. They just don't know how to know in their editor that things are right, and they're intimidated by seeing a red underline that shows them where there's an error. Please, give me a break. I can't use Notepad today, actually, and I can't change hats because I don't have my hats with me. They're actually in my suitcase out in the car, and I can't change to Notepad because I'm on Linux today, and we are going to be coding with VI. So VI, a little bit of Visual Studio Code, maybe more Visual Studio Code than VI. My VI chops aren't there yet. We're going to warm up on that because when I ran my mouth about .NET, I'm going to do, and I'm sticking by this, chat room, I'm going to do all through March. We're going to be on Linux. We're going to be using VI. We're going to be doing .NET at the command line only all month long. It's going to be minimal March. And we're going to get outside of Windows the entire month. Maybe we'll do a little bit on Mac. Maybe we'll do a little bit with Visual Studio Code. Maybe a little with Visual Studio for Mac. But we're going to be off of Windows. We're going to be out of Visual Studio 2019 to show you can be productive with all these other tools and be a real developer. It's going to take longer to build things. It's going to take longer to detect things because you don't have it running natively right here in your editor, getting that immediate feedback. And I want you to see that. But we'll show you that you can use all those tools that folks prefer and say that are their favorites, whether it's Emacs, Vim, Pico, whatever. We're going to get into that. All right. Let me head over here to the chat room. Tamal says, you see, I've been working with Blazor lately, and they have a question. Have I done some Blazor pages using MobileBlazorBinding, and the one that uses Xamarian Essentials? Let me put that up here. The question from Tamal. I have not used the Blazor mobile bindings. They're very experimental. And what we've been working on here on stream is a series of components that help folks move from ASP.NET Web Forms forward to Blazor and .NET Core. The challenge that I have with using the mobile bindings right now, me personally here on stream, is it's extremely experimental. Extremely experimental. It's not something that I'm typically building things for mobile. We might be able to talk about it next month while for this minimal March, because we are going to shift away from this set of Blazor components. But right now, I actually have a lot of folks that are interested in collaborating and working on these Blazor components. So we need to get something done and delivered and built for folks out here. So we're going to move forward and get that running. All right. I don't know what just happened here, but suddenly the machine here, I'm using the same setup, the same stuff they use here for the .NET community stand-ups. Suddenly things are lighting up on the machine in front of me. So the mobile stuff we absolutely will touch on, we will get to. It's a little bit early for me to use here on stream because I'm not comfortable using those tools yet. I want to make sure that I'm familiar with them, and I do have a project that I need to get a minimum viable product delivered on. Cam does cool stuff, writes. Let me put this up on the screen as well so folks can see it. Hey, where's my mouse? There we go. This is our friend Cam Soper, writes, love that we're talking about non-Visual Studio tools. Some of the Microsoft Learn modules that have been written, they have you writing code in the browser and compiling with the .NET SDK using the Azure Cloud Shell. Check out Web API, ASP.NET Core Identity, or Entity Framework core modules. That's out there at learn.microsoft.com. You can check that out. Absolutely. Thanks so much, Cam, for pointing that out. There's a lot that you can learn directly in the browser from those. Thank you for the follow. I appreciate it. And let me head over. Let me talk about the project here. Show you where we are. Show you where we can get to. I'm not going to be able to spend too much more time today talking about it because I have to get things set up for Dev Intersection. And well, if there's a lot that I need to rearrange here and get running for that. Yes, Hugo, we passed 9,700 followers. Check that out right there below. Closing in on 10,000. When we get to 10,000, we're going to have a 12-hour stream. I'm not going to give away stickers right now. I don't have the gear set up for that to do the giveaway because I'm on Linux. That software runs on Windows. When we get back tomorrow morning, we'll do a sticker giveaway here on stream. And I didn't get to the post office, but I have everything packed up to go for all those folks that I owe stuff from January and all through February. I do have a bunch of things that we're going to be shipping out to viewers on stream. All right, let me go back over to the project that we've been working on. That's over here. This is the Blazor Web Forms components. Now, these are components that we've been working on. We've been building here live on stream that, like I said, emulate the old ASP.NET web forms. Tomorrow morning is the same time as today. Yes, tomorrow morning, same time as today. Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. If you look at the calendar, the schedule, just below me here on Twitch, you'll see the schedule. You'll see exactly what time in your time zone that I broadcast. So these components are designed to emulate the way that folks did things with web forms. And I've built a whole bunch of stuff here to get folks up and running with some of these components. Folks in the community have contributed. You're going to see those names up above me there on the crawl, the folks that have contributed to the project. I spoke to a number of Microsoft folks while I've been in town here today, the past 2 days. No, it's really only been 24 hours. The past day here, and there is some interest from Microsoft folks in supporting and seeing where we can take this. I need to get some documentation in front of them to kind of prove out a little bit of what we're seeing here. And that's where, chat room, I want to hear your feedback. If this makes sense, if there's things that you need to do with ASP.NET that this doesn't provide yet, let me know. Let's get that lit up. Let's get that available and in the project, or at the very least, record it as an issue so that we can move forward and start making something happen with this. So this project, let me put the URL here in the chat box. This project you can find at not GitHub, github.com. Nope, I didn't set a project command. Fritz and Friends, Blazor. Oh my gosh, thank you so much. Thank you so much, Hugo, for setting that up. I don't even need to type it, it's right there. Very cool, thank you. So click through, check it out. We still need to put together a sample deployment of what this looks like, but we do have sample projects that are in here that you can compile and run. There's a Gitter community of folks that are starting to chat about this. And a number of folks are starting to ask questions and issues and say, hey, how can I contribute? Take a look, and I'm sure you can. There's something that you can pick up and run with. As a project manager, I need to outline a little bit more of what's going on here. Kim does cool stuff. Let me put that one up. Points out that GutHub, the dating site for gastroenterologists. Yeah, that's a thing. Thank you, Kim. Oh my gosh. So, oh my gosh, Sika Player.
Sika Player raided my stream with 18 viewers.
Thank you so much for the raid. Sika Player is here. So good to see you, my friend. He's another member of the Live Coders team. Welcome in. Thank you so much. How's it going there, Raiders? My name is Jeff Fritz. I'm in a studio here at Microsoft campus, and we're talking about Blazor, and we're going to do a little bit of coding of Blazor. Blazor, some HTML, some C#, using Linux here today. So we were working through, and I forget exactly where I left off here on this machine. So let me make sure folks know some of the keystrokes that I'm using here while I'm going through. The Bald Bearded Builder is here. Hello, Michael Jolly. Good to see you. He was giving me a bit of lip yesterday when I was online with the Live Coders and our friend Dee Walsh. But Sika Player, what were you and your friends doing over there on your stream before you raided? Let me know. Yeah, there's an echo coming off the sound effect. So I don't have Karnak running here, so I need to kind of call out some of the keystrokes that I'm using here. But I have other workspaces that I can switch to. Doing a little PHP. Is that what you were doing there? How's it going, SegFault8? Let me open, I'm going to do Windows key 2 here to open my terminal. And I can start to navigate around in here. I have a dev folder with a bunch of my projects that I've been working on here. Particularly, there's my Blazor Web Forms components. I can jump into that folder, and you can see I changed up my prompt here so that it shows me a little bit of information about the branch that I'm working on and whether it's what's the word I'm looking for here? Needs an update, right? I've got stuff out there on the remote that I need to bring in. XAMMP on Mac, nice, very cool. Well, thanks for bringing folks over here. I appreciate you sharing my stream to everybody on your stream. Nope, I'm not using PowerShell core, Hugo. I'm using Bash here. I want to stay as stock Linux as possible. I've installed .NET using the instructions from .NET, and I'll go through that when we get into March, and we need to do some of that. Wanted to try and get me to 100 viewers? Nah, not quite. Just missed it. Looks like that's okay. I'm not going to get wound up about that. So I've been working on my documentation for the project here. Let me drop down one more, and I'm going to open Visual Studio Code here because it gives me a nice preview pane for me to be able to watch and see exactly what my documentation looks like as I work on it. 5 more viewers and we're out to 100. Oh, cool. Thank you, NetCodies. I appreciate you pointing that out. Seeker Player asks, what's the Microsoft campus like? Microsoft campus is like a large university campus. It feels like, it looks like, right, there's literally 100+ buildings here, and it feels like a large university campus. Oh my gosh, Sarah Fats!
Fats just gifted 10 subs.
Whoa! Thank you so much for 10 gift subs. Wow, I really appreciate that. We're going to make 10 donations to code.org for that. And let me run down the list here. Will Airways, The Mies Peter, Lil Panda, Freya, Desert Griffin, is that EFGAA, Vladius, Silence, White Chocolate, Ryan Warner Codes. Congratulations, you all just got gift sub. Thanks to our friend Sarah Fats, in the way, dialing in from Bulgaria. Thank you so much, Sarah. I really appreciate that. At least one softball diamond. Yeah, there's a softball diamond here. There were a couple soccer fields, but they're under construction right now, so things are changed up a little bit. Rent-a-scooters all over the place. Yep. So thank you so much, Sarah. I really appreciate that. And like I said, we'll make donations to code.org, our charity that we're supporting all quarter here live on stream. Where is the campus? Asks Seeker Player. We're outside of Seattle.
Stand by reloading. Just resubscribe for 7 months.
Stand by reloading. Thank you so much for the resub, and we'll make another donation. We're in the suburbs of Seattle, in a town called Redmond, Washington. So that's where you can find Microsoft. Kind of funny, a little ironic. The folks that work for some of the downtown tech companies refer to Microsoft as the country club. Okay, fine. I see this as it's quite beautiful here when you see the landscape and the open space and all the green spaces. They really are ecologically friendly, and they're encouraging taking care of our planet here. We should be doing that, and they're doing a great job of that in some of the efforts they're doing to maintain a campus, to have a campus like this, minimize car travel on campus, make it easier for folks to do some interesting ways to interact here. Hey Freya, good to see you. Thank you so much for tuning in. Appreciate you joining us. And congratulations on the gift sub. Daryl says, it's really nice. You were there a few months back. It feels like a college campus. So this is some of the documentation that I've been working on. I find working on this little machine. So this is a Lenovo ThinkPad X230 that I use. It's a 13-inch screen, but because I'm on one screen, I'm using Linux, and I can't Alt-Tab over and have all these other things running. I don't have Netflix running here. I don't have all those other things that distract me, right? I can't bring up Diablo or Fortnite and start playing a game. It keeps me more focused on writing code, writing documentation here on my laptop. So that, and I can't plug in 2 more displays and have things going on beside me and getting distracted. So this I find to be an interesting, a nice experience for me to do some very focused development. And you can see I've been building out, adding some more documentation for things like our list view component. So the list view is a component that ASP.NET Web Forms have that would allow you to put a layout around a repeated collection of different things that you got out of a database, and you would specify templates, even some grouping for those things. And thanks to our friend Gareth, we've actually got some of these features around grouping built. We've got some other tests built around them, but I added the documentation around this so that you could see and get a little bit more information about, well, here's what it used to look like, and here's what it does look like in Blazor. And I haven't added the documentation at the end here for the Blazor syntax. But these are things out there that folks can fill in, and it's going to help those people that want to use our components to be able to be productive with this. Now, I'm using, of course, Markdown so that it looks nice on GitHub. When I go over to GitHub and I click into the docs, I want to make sure our documentation looks good over here around all of these components. So, and there's that list view, right? There's my documentation. So this is the regular development branch. I could change over to that documentation branch. You can see what I've been writing. So, and I'm an amateur at writing this documentation. I'm not the best at writing this, but I want to make sure I have something out there, and people who are better at writing documentation, tying it together, putting together good samples, hopefully can chime in and give us a little bit of help here. This is completely open source. This is not a Microsoft-owned project. This is something that I wanted to make sure was community-focused, community-driven, and hopefully customer-driven from folks who want this type of functionality to be able to migrate their applications. Let me head back over to the terminal. Let me show you. I'm going to check out and jump over to the dev branch. So you can see I'm behind by 1. This is, yeah, somebody was asking, I am using bash, and I forget where I pulled in the git script that will give me the notation here. So let me pull in the changes that I have out there. And it's, okay, this Blazor Web Forms Components XML, I need to get rid of this. Oh, no, I did get rid of it. See it? It's deleted. Oh, good. Okay. So that's the documentation that .NET generates that has all the markup for IntelliSense to be able to show you those things. So real nice, but it's something that should be generated when we build and deploy stuff. I'm looking at the time here, and I don't have too much time before I need to get ready for dev intersection because I need to reconfigure things. I don't have things laid out and built here quite so nicely. You do want to figure out the bash setup. I just looked for
And then?
well, no, not and then yet. I looked for git bash prompt, and this script came up, and it's there's a standard one that folks refer to. So thank you for the follow. Enska TV, welcome in. Appreciate that. Jor Mundor says, recently discovered in Windows 10 you can enable Linux CLI commands in the command prompt. Yes, Windows subsystem for Linux. We'll definitely show that a little bit. This is not my. Nope. So there you go. There's the git prompt. That's the one I'm using from Magic Monty. So, yeah, Windows subsystem for Linux is pretty cool. SegFault8 says, yes, I completely agree. So I have the .NET command line installed here, so I can execute .NET version. And you see I still get the same 3.101 that I have on Windows. When you build for .NET, you build it just like Java. You get bytecode. We call it intermediate code that you can just-in-time compile on the different runtimes, on the different operating systems. So you can, yeah, I know the sound effects are louder. It's because of how I'm outputting. It's one-time thing. So we're able to build and target and use the same things here and generate and deliver the same DLLs, the same EXEs. When they get to whatever target operating system, they'll run with the appropriate runtime that's installed on that operating system and run correctly. I can, with .NET, I can publish and target, hey, publish this thing and make it run on Mac. And it'll bundle up all the binaries necessary to run on a Mac so that you can lift up and deploy that package and have it run, that entire executable run on a Mac, or have it run on a flavor of Linux, or on a different bitness processor. I want to have this run on a 32-bit processor over here. You can do that. You can target and do all of those things with the .NET command line. I'm going to drop down into my source folder here, and you can see Blazor Web Forms Components is the name of the project. I can do, and I don't have too much time to actually write code here today, so I'm just going to do a quick tour. I can do .NET build, and it will build my project. It will restore all the packages, all the references that I need, and I'm going to get, right, I should get, there we go. All the warnings are because I put
Anticipation.
Yeah, okay, we're waiting for it to build, sure. But, right, all the warnings are because I turned on, I want to log the XML documentation. So I'm not too concerned about those. We need to get that documentation in there, but dang, 867 is a lot. Hey there, Anthronolate. Welcome in. Can you have a sticker? We give them away. We raffle them off, and we'll have a giveaway on tomorrow at about the same time. We'll have a giveaway on stream. I just don't have my raffle stuff set up here to be able to do that. But thank you for the follow. I appreciate you joining us. So, testing does also work over here. There's a command. I went to the wrong folder. There is a command. .NET test that'll allow you to run all of your tests, and because we've been writing our tests for Blazor using Blazor, well, everything just kind of works. So all of my tests do work. Look at that, running my tests, outputting all the markup, and I've got 138 passing. So I can still run all my tests. I can still do all my building live here on stream, and my samples all work as well. Let me go over to samples, and I'll even, you know what, let's, hey there, after Blazor, let's run the client side so that I can show you with .NET Run here. This is going to run Blazor WebAssembly. So we're going to take all of our code, we're going to compile C# code and have it run natively in the browser on Linux. This is Ubuntu. That's right, White Chocolate. So, there we go. Let me go over here. And I am on localhost, spell it right, Jeff, 5000, and there it is. This is running as WebAssembly in the browser, right? If I look at the source code that it delivered, right, and when I hit F12 and I look at my network requests, right, I'm on Linux, right? Let's do a hard refresh there. What the heck is it doing delivering to a Linux machine DLLs? System core DLL, mono security DLL, right? Microsoft ASP.NET Core Blazor DLL, right? .NET works everywhere. It even works in the browser, okay? We're targeting, this is a mono runtime that's been specifically recompiled to host .NET in the browser. All right, but I have the same code that just works everywhere. So this is what I mean when I say to folks, use .NET, be productive, and just work where you want to. Use your favorite editor. Use what makes you happy. You like Visual Studio Code. Great, here's Visual Studio Code. And I can drop down into, right, I can go into my favorite, I'm in my docs folder there. I can go into my samples here. Here's the WebAssembly code. And I can certainly, oh, you know what? This is actually shared. If I go down here into my samples, right? And I can actually, let me put something new on the component list page, right? I can change and put more content out here, and that's fine, right? It's the same .NET code that works everywhere, and all through the month of March, I want to break through some of the myths, some of the things that people say, well, you can't do this. Absolutely, you can do these things over here in Linux. It cannot do anything another language or JavaScript can normally do. What do you mean it cannot do anything? Oh, right. The WebAssembly, it can run in the browser like that. Yes, it is. WebAssembly is limited to the browser sandbox. You can't reach outside of it. So minimal March. Yep. You're right. It's the antithesis to March Madness. Absolutely. Let me see. How much time do I got? We're good. We're good. Okay. We've been working on, let me head over, we've been working on a form view control over here. Let me close up my samples and drop down into the source. We've been working on the, well, I'm going to need to go change, right? Yeah, I'm in dev. Let me take a look at my branches here. I'm going to grab feature form view. Thank you for the follow. Appreciate you joining us. Is that Cat ASCII feet? Haha. Well done. Hello, hello. Jean Valjean is here. Welcome in. Do I have? No. Okay. That feature tree view data binding, I thought we finished that. Anyway, no matter. I'm going to check out and track origin feature form view. So git checkout -- track says create a new branch, and we're going to track this remote branch. We're going to build and work with that content from over there. So I'm now in that branch, and I should have over here in Visual Studio Code. There we go. Now I've got my form view control here that I can work with and start building. Now I forget where I left off with this. TPD Gamer.
To Gamer just resubscribed for 8 months.
Thank you so much. Appreciate you joining us. TPD Gamer is one of our first subscribers here on the channel. Thank you so much. And another member of the Live Coders team. Really appreciate it. White Coder says, WebAssembly has DOM access. No, it doesn't. WebAssembly is inside of Sandbox. You can't reach outside of it. You can't change the DOM. So, yep, there's with Blazor and with the other WebAssembly technologies, there's an interop bridge that folks have built so they can listen and receive those messages from the browser and interact with it. You can pass DOM objects into WebAssembly and interact with it, but you cannot from WebAssembly interact outside to it. So, I want to take a look at where I left off here because I don't remember exactly where all of my unit tests ran. I could be running here in this terminal, but you know what? If I've got such a small screen here, I feel like doing more over here is a little bit crazy. Let's see how it works. So I'm inside the terminal inside of Visual Studio Code. I could get really meta and do this. Right, that's kind of weird. I could do that, right? I'm not going to do that. Oops, wrong key. There we go. Get out of VI. Let me head over to source, and get into the test, and I can run the test here again, and I want to see how many tests are here and see what else is going on there. Run VI in a tmux pane in the terminal in VS Code. Yeah, that's kind of crazy, right? Having panes upon panes, and I can actually segment the panes here in Visual Studio Code if I want. So I think all of my tests work that are out here that I've compiled and left out there. Yeah, 140 tests. So my form view has tests built in that are out there handling it that should look good. in the browser. I don't remember if we built any samples that use the form view yet. Maybe we can write a quick sample here today. So let me go over here to my server side. I'm going to drop into pages. I have control samples here. There's form view, and I have a simple form view built at this point. Let's take a look. That just outputs item price inside of a table here for this item template. Does form view have a layout template? I don't remember. The trick to using VI is to never use it. No. You exit VI. There's several different ways to exit VI. :Q exclamation point will get you out without saving, right? Basically :Q with some combination of other things will get you out of it. I like to use Shift ZZ because it's the same thing as write my file and quit. So let's see here. Using DLLs in the browser sounds amazing as there is no need to obfuscate JavaScript. Exactly. But folks can still decompile your DLL when it gets delivered. So that's still a thing. Any executable that you ship to a customer, to a user, you can't trust. You just can't. So let's see. Can I serve pre-rendered pages in Blazor? Yes, you can. Don't forget escape. Yes, you need to change modes. There's a mode thing in VI. Dotfuscator coming for Blazor. Was that just for it? Dotfuscator for Mac OS. It might be running for Blazor. I'm not sure. We could talk to our friends at Preemptive and learn about that. We can trust Johan's executables. Maybe. I don't know. Is it signed? Right, there's that whole signature thing. Watch a signature thing end up coming into Blazor and being verified in the browser, and there's a whole list of things that's going to end up coming in there. Babel for .NET also works for Blazor. Nice. Okay. Looking at this though, I've got a form view that allows paging. I forget if form view actually has a layout feature. Let me back up in the docs here, and I want to take a look at form view. I could merge and work with some of our, see, I don't even have docs in here for form view in the docs branch because I was working on it over here so that I could merge all of my form view features and documentation all in one shot. See, I don't even have features supported listed here yet. So I copied in the the default layout, things that are supported here. No, there is no layout template. Okay, but there is a header template. Header template we could bring in pretty quick. Header template takes some child controls. We could do that, right? But I don't know what the header template looks like from web forms, and because I'm in Linux, I can't run it either. So that's actually kind of an interesting side effect of this project, right? Folks that build and work with web forms, as was true with ASP.NET, with .NET Framework, it did only run in the browser. But, it did only run on Windows, right? It runs in the browser. It needs needs that virtual machine. So when I get web forms to be able to run and do the same workup and deliver the same workload, the same features, the same code, the same technology over on Linux, that's pretty good. Simple Azure site for classic ASP.NET, that's not a bad idea. You've got 50,000 in Fritz bits. You got a code review that could be fun soon. All right. Why not Windows or Mac OS? Why not? The criticism that we're trying to break through, we're trying to show a little bit of here today, is that we can do these things on Mac. I don't know what the format of header template is going to look like. I could deploy my before web forms site so that I could see what that looks like, so that I ended up spinning up a Windows server and having it out there. But that's going to be a little bit too much for what I need to accomplish today. Let me do this. And I'm up against 8 o'clock. 8 o'clock Pacific. because I've got in the back of my head, I'm worrying about what I need to set up and get running here for Dev Intersection, because we're doing a Dev Intersection show at 9 o'clock, at noon Eastern. Let me think. What is there a feature we could put in here real quick? Right, I don't know what these look like though, from web forms. So I kind of need to be able to bounce back and forth, or be able to have a fully featured form view running that I could implement and interact with. Do I have on data binding and on data bound? I could wire these up real quick, these two event handlers. I could probably do that. Let me see if we can do that real quick. Just add that feature, right? So inside of our component, and inside of the control, when you would run the control, there was this concept of, and you see this in other frameworks, this concept of data binding that happens. Where's it? Form view down here. So as our form is rendered, right, and the form is a way for, right, this is the idea of I want to be able to, I don't know what the footer text looks like, where it gets placed in the markup. So I don't know where to put it. There's this concept of data binding, right, that says here's a collection of things, data bind it and make it appear inside of whatever that component does, right? Maybe it's a chart, maybe it's a grid. In this case, the form view is intended to give folks the ability to specify, here's a form that is something that we want to repeat for every data point inside of that collection, right? It could be a form like intended to look like a sheet of paper for folks to do data entry. It could be a form that's actually a row in a grid that folks are entering data into. All kinds of different ways that you could use this component to deliver that user interface. But there's two events, on data binding and on data bound, that are generic to the data bound controls from web forms that trigger to notify you, hey, there's a thing that's we're data binding. Do you want to do something with this when that event happens? Maybe you want to format some of the data. Maybe you want to change some of it. I don't know. And there's on data bound that fires when it's done attaching and binding a data point to the user interface. And we've implemented that with some of our other components by just firing those events before we format the user interface and after we format the user interface. And inside of this component, if I go over to Form View Razor CS here, this component inherits from base model binding component. Let me see, can I F12 into it? Nope. Nope, I'm not going to be able to F12 into it. That's okay, so we will not control. Hang on. Form View Razor CS, Form View Razor, and we were using, hey. Let's see, Form View Razor CS, and I want to, I don't get how you don't get this thing pinned here. Hang on, I'm doing a Control T here, and it's not opening another tab. All right, I need to edit it just to get it to stay. That doesn't feel right. So I have this base model binding component. That's not base model binding component. There it is. So this is an abstract class that actually has those events already declared here. I thought it did. No? All right, maybe not. Maybe it's in base data binding. Base data binding component over here. Yeah, there they are. Don't save. So here are the events. They're already implemented. Now this is an abstract class that's being implemented, and up the chain, Form View already has that feature. So on data binding and on data bound are available. I can wire them up to my user interface so that here inside the table, right, when I do have a collection here, this for loop, right? If I equals position, what is that? That doesn't make sense. Why am I doing this? I don't know what that's doing. I don't know why, right? Why is it outputting just a number? Oh. No. Wait. What? I'm not sure what it's doing there. Or where that position value came from. Anybody remember what we were doing here? No pin tab option. Yeah. There's static noise. Yeah, it's the noise in the studio. It's the air noise in the studio. It's a feature. Yeah. I forget what that feature is. Where position is coming from. If I flip over here, here's the position. Is that the position of the selected item? Did we do that? Thank you for the follow. Knight MT. Welcome in. Or is that the position of the current item? Which, okay, I guess that kind of makes sense. Right when you have an item selected, yeah, here, on click, it's selecting it right there. It's not. Okay, hang on. So it calls the item template up here if it does have items. Oh, I'm sorry. This is the pager. Wow, friends. Ooh. How many Fritz bids to get a job at Microsoft? Millions. All right. Let me put some notation in here so that I remember that next time, right? So you put comments in Razor markup with the @ sign. This is the pager. That's what's going on there. This is the data binding going on right here for the item template, right? And it should be doing, and that's just for the current item. So what I should do is up here say, right, if on, where is it? I thought I had on data binding, right? What's the name of that? Yeah, on data binding, there it is. That should be a thing. Go back over here. If on data binding, that's a thing, right? If that does not, how did we do this? Oh no. OmniSharp isn't picking it up. I'm not getting my proper IntelliSense for this. Because, well, it doesn't even see on data binding. There's a first problem. Thinking. Hey, Stelzy, hello. Right, I should be able to say, right, on data binding, and because that's an event callback, we should be able to wire up and say, does this have anything? And if it does, trigger it, right? I can kind of cheat, right? I can go look at the list view because the list view is actually really complex how it does it. Let me look at the repeater, right? Because this also triggers, I thought it triggered on data binding, or it doesn't yet. I don't have it in the repeater yet. Nice, way to go, Jeff. So we'll go to the list view because it does have on data binding. And it's really complex. It's interesting how as you get more features, right, how complex your code gets. Here it is, on data binding, invoke async. But if on data binding isn't set, can I just do that? On data binding? Invoke async, right? Null and event args.empty. Is that going to work for me? Why do I think that's not going to work for me? I'm going to run .NET watch build down here. This is actually going to build every time I make changes to a file inside the project. Come on. See, I've got an error. What's that error? No overload takes 2 arguments. What do you mean? Oh, it doesn't in this. I don't need the first because of the way that events are structured. That should work now. No, you're going to be difficult, aren't you? Because I'm working in Blazor, it's not going to build. Has using a Mac degraded the overall stream quality that much? Asks Stelzy. No. And actually, I'm using Linux. So. You like how the bash style, git style script shows up in VS Code terminal as well? Yes. There we go. No errors. So now I can, on the other side of this, do the similar on data bound, invoke async, event args, empty. What? There we go. Right now, that should, there it goes. Recompile, and I'll go over to the sample and I'll rerun the sample to make sure that I've got, yep, there we go. Go back over here. Let me run the server side one. So these should be identical. And if I .NET run this, it should pick up and run things. Is the Fritz bot AI? Yes, it is. It inspects every one of the questions and every one of the messages that is placed into chat. It uses that to help set the sentiment value that you see out there. If there's a question, something that ends with a question mark that it knows the answer to, that it thinks it knows the answer to, it'll write that answer into chat. It'll identify images if you post a link to an image. If you post a link to any other website, it'll give us the title of that website. Hey there, Webface. Good to see you. Welcome in. I'm not going to be on for too much longer here. Let me browse back to the website. If I refresh, that'll change and say after Blazor server side. And if I go look at my form view, it still works. So it's triggering and handling those events for me properly. So that's a good thing. Answer no late. Ask it about hats. You can ask the bot about hats. You can ask it about some other things, and it has some good answers for you. Lily Hazel is here. Hello there. Welcome in, Thirsty Pooch. Thank you for the follow. Appreciate you joining us. So, yeah. I've tried to make the bot a little bit smarter so it can handle some of the common questions we get. I need to load up some more of the questions about it. So there you go. You don't have to write the word question in front of it. Just end with a question mark and it'll inspect and try to find an answer. So, so this is working, and I've got those two events now wired up to my code. What I should do is add to my markdown features supported in Blazor. Right, let's actually start listing what it does. Read-only form, numerical pager, the on data binding and on data bound events trigger. I probably should actually inspect and verify that those events run properly. But I don't. There's actually a cooldown on the question, so it doesn't hit to try and do questions so quickly. But I've got just a little bit of code here that will trigger those. I should write a unit test that will verify that those events get triggered properly when you're data binding, and I do have sample tests that run that. I don't want to run too much longer here because I need time to set up for dev intersection. I'm not going to be able to raid into dev intersection though if I end early. That's going to have to be okay because I need that set up properly. Because my guest today is Brady Gaster. He's actually going to be joining me here in studio, and we're going to have Richard Campbell dial in from across the interwebs. Yeah, let me wrap up here today. We only implemented the one little feature, and I'm okay with that. If I do a git status, it's telling me I have 3 changes here. There's my 3 changes. So let me go up a couple. I would run the Mario music for wrapping up, but you folks in the chat room have been quite vocal about sound effects are coming through echoed here, so I'll pass on that right now. Let me get this committed here, get things cleaned up. So and I'll add added on data binding and on data bound triggers in the form view. So we'll continue building features here. We'll continue adding these features into the project. Just a very simple, very small thing that we did here today with Linux, just because I'm so out of my realm here and things aren't set up quite the way that I would have preferred. But we'll be back same time tomorrow, all set up to do more. I'll be back on Windows. I'll be back in Visual Studio, and we'll have a regular stream tomorrow as we're getting ready for Minimal March, as we do things that are going to be all on Linux, and we get folks seeing and believing and hopefully learning more about how you can use Linux and whatever your favorite tools are to build and work with .NET and build anything with .NET. Let me see who else is streaming out here on Twitch so we can set up a raid. We'll do a raid call here. Let me see here. I would like to raid eeny, meeny, miny. You know who we haven't raided in a really long time? She's not a live coder, but I definitely want to raid her because she's somebody that I think would be a tremendous live coder. And she's working in C++ on some game dev with shaders. This is, hang on there, fella. We'll get to you in just a second. You can come in and sit down, I guess. That's fine. We can do that. As I'm getting ready here, look at that, I got to change scenes. Come on, dude, head over. You can come on over. I still got to set up for the other stream, but we're gonna raid Jessica Mac. You need a Mac charger? What? So Jessica's a channel that's recommended for mature audiences. Look at this. He's gonna walk right in front of the camera again. Go ahead. Walk across the room. There he goes. Yeah, thanks. There's Brady Gaster. He's gonna be joining us later. Oh my goodness. Thank you so much, friends. I appreciate you tuning in. We got through this. I hope you enjoyed talking a little bit about .NET and the places that you can use .NET. And we wrote a little bit of code here on Linux, but I'll be seeing you tomorrow back home, back in Philadelphia. Get ready to say hello to Jessica for me, and I'll see you in about an hour over on the Dev Intersection channel, all right? Thanks so much. We'll see you then. And there we go, sending folks over to Jessica. And I need to click the end stream.